It's a beautiful Monday morning right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams. First off, let's take a look at what's happening in the markets. We see oil prices shared as much as $4 a barrel today, extending last week's decline as diplomatic efforts to end the war in Ukraine were stepped up and markets braced for higher U.S. rates. Brent crude futures last down about $3.05 at $109 per barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures eased $3.10 to $106.23 a barrel. Both contracts have surged since the Russia's February 24th invasion of Ukraine and are up roughly 40% for the year to date. Russia and Ukraine gave the most upbeat assessments after weekend negotiations, suggesting there could be positive results within days. All right, now, so after the break, we'll take a look at soaring oil prices due to the Russia-Ukraine crisis and see how the spillover effect is impacting Nigeria. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. And now to our first conversation. Well, the world economy's fragile recovery from the COVID-induced crisis is now threatened by Russia's war in Ukraine. We see soaring oil prices rallying globally. See rising energy costs biting, stoking inflation that was already on the rise before the war in Ukraine. For analysis now, we have Femi Adeyemo, CEO, Energy, joining us in the studio. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning, Ladi.
Yeah, so
thank you for having me.
Yes.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah. So first, it was quite interesting times. You know, right now, first it was the pandemic.
Right.
You know, that saw oil prices go as much as to zero. Last time, and now we have, you know, this war between Russia and Ukraine sending oil prices to new highs. How are you seeing the markets right now?
You know, like you said, it's interesting because, I mean, with the pandemic, oil prices, probably the lowest in history, and now it's at the highest. But for us as a nation, there is no difference, to the man on the streets. Maybe it's even worse now. You know, because then it was the conversations around, we're not generating more, as much revenue as we would like as a country. But now oil prices are high, diesel prices, at the peakest that we've seen, and fuel scarcity everywhere. So that speaks to the need for us as a nation to be secured when it comes to energy. We can't continue to rely on refining our crude outside the country and then bringing it back. So it's important that as much as possible across that energy value chain, we need to be able to control our destiny. Either it's in the, on the crude side, getting the final product, or even on the energy transition. Because, even in Europe now, you're now hearing a lot of move towards energy transition. Because a lot of, even in Europe, they relied a lot on, the gas from Russia.
Exactly.
And everybody's running around. So we need to be intentional as a nation to control our destiny. And for us, as a proponent of renewable energy, we say anything that you can control, that's what you need to do now. And that's why, as much as possible, we've been advocating for solar. Of course, there might be arguments around how much of that do we also manufacture in country. But as a company today, and as one of the leaders in this industry, we advocate for as much that you can manufacture locally. You need to start manufacturing now.
Right.
Because for businesses to be sustainable, 625 litre diesel,
that's incredible.
At 625 naira a litre, it's not sustainable.
Talking about this gas issue, the reliance with Europe relying heavily on Russian gas. And, recently I saw the federal government, talking about investment, in that, in our gas sector, so that we can actually, fill that gap, that Russia. And I'm looking at, what do you think about that?
Even the U.S. now, right? Everybody, President Donald Trump hates him or like him. Then it was American first. Now it's a case of even Americans are trying to solve their own problem, right? So, I don't think America is ready for us now to say, oh, come and invest so that Nigeria can help plug the gap in Russia or in Europe. we need to, again, as a nation, begin to take our destiny in our hands and not to wait for handouts from anybody, because when the chips are down, they will look after themselves first, right? And that's what is happening. You realize now that, I mean, Germany are looking for what they can do to be self-sustaining and not relying on Russia again. So we need to look inward. What can we do as a nation? And to be frank, government had been doing. I mean, we know the decade of gas that is happening in Nigeria. We've also seen a lot of government support, even in renewable energy. But is it being channeled to the right sector or to the right, to the right sector of the economy? Because what we've seen in the renewables is most of the capital that is available now. Yes, we love people in the rural communities. It can reduce the rural-urban migration, but the SME that is the bedrock of the economy, they're not feeling the impact of what the government is doing, and that's why, I mean, you see a lot of Nigerians moving abroad, and those are the brain power that we have that needs to stay here and help the government to resolve all of this conundrum that we are into today.
Quite interesting. You know, you talked about soaring diesel prices
Right.
earlier, and obviously this is more of a head cost for, you know, some of the businesses that rely heavily
Absolutely.
on diesel at this point, and it could actually lead to some of them actually closing shop the way it's going. So how do businesses hedge against this risk right now?
Agric, I mean, fantastic question. My organization, of course, there are a lot of solar companies, so it's not about my company alone. But what has happened in the last 4 or 5 years is we've seen a lot of foreign investment into the renewable energy sector that has now allowed people to be able to pay for renewable energy or solar energy almost on an ongoing basis or pay-as-you-go basis. So the reason why a lot of Nigerian business owners or even homeowners had not switched was because of the initial capital cost. But now there are a lot of, companies like us and a few other ones that will say, you don't need to buy outrightly. How much are you spending on diesel on a monthly basis? I can install solar on your roof, either in your factory or in your SME or in your quick service restaurant, and then you pay on a monthly basis. So when diesel was 300 naira a liter, that made sense. Now at 625 naira a liter, it's made even more sense for Nigerians to begin to take that control of their energy consumption, because, the business owner that had switched 2 years ago, a year ago, they have a fixed cost. So diesel prices rising or not, they have edged themselves against that. And my advice will be that for anyone, any business owner that is still sitting on the fence, our phones have been ringing almost around the clock in the last 2 weeks. So my advice is control it now. We don't hope that what happened in Lebanon last year will happen, where, subsidy was removed and it was chaos. Even the renewable energy companies then that were offering lease to own or leasing, they were like, no more leasing, you pay me cash, otherwise, because I also have limited inventory. So this is the time that business owners, for them to be sustainable, because at 625, a lot are already struggling, and we don't know where this is going on.
But talking about, renewable energy,
right,
how much can, renewable energy actually help in plugging this gap at this point?
I always love to answer that question. There are nations today that are being powered by renewable energy. So if you look at Lagos, for instance, if we aggregate all of the diesel generators capacity that we have, it's about 15 gigawatts or 15,000 megawatts. How much is that compared to, for instance, was it 2 years ago that the first 6 months in Germany, they installed 40,000 megawatts of new solar capacity? So it's a function of the will and also government supporting, because, we've been around for about 8 years now. There are other solar companies. There is also a limit to what private sector can do. And that's why if you look at all of the countries that had taken that step, and I'm talking of Australia, I'm talking of even the US during President Barack Obama going to solar farms, commissioning 100 megawatts here, 200 megawatts there. But what are we doing? We're only doing in the rural communities. Again, no disrespect to people in the rural communities, but if our economy will take off, if we will be self-sustaining and we are not going to be waiting for handouts from the West, we need to take that move, make that bold move. And I tell you that indeed, if we're ready today, if the regulation allow Lagos State, and Lagos State had been very progressive around this. If the support is there, solar can power the whole of Lagos. There are several provinces in China where you will see solar panels, hundreds of megawatts, even on the water. So we have waterways in Lagos, some of them that are not used that we can put solar panels on it. And then we can be self-sustaining in Lagos. Rivers State has tried it, Edo State have tried. Government needs to support and let us stop, waiting on
so there's a lot of
any other
innovation,
nation. Innovation
going
is there.
on in that with renewable energy. Okay.
Absolutely.
With all that's going on now, we see with all of this tension between Russia and Ukraine, if this continues, what's your outlook for the price of diesel?
It's tough. 3 weeks ago, my finance team, they were doing a model for some residential estate that, we want to power. And someone said diesel was still maybe 400 then. And I saw a model that showed that diesel will be 1,000 in 10 years. I said, come on, guys, that's not possible.
In 10 years?
Yeah, they said it will be 1,000 in 10 years. This was 3 weeks ago. It was still 400 naira, right? So 3 weeks after, diesel is now 620. Some people have bought diesel at 700 naira. So I'm not even sure if 1,000 naira will not be next year. God forbid. So I can tell you that I cannot, I cannot beat my chest and tell you, this is what diesel will be in next year, because it has defied all statistics. Because we've seen 250% increments in the last 3 months. It was 300 naira in January. Now, we're just middle of March and you're seeing 700 naira.
And that's not far off, really.
That's not far off. So, it could be, if this continues based on your question, it could be 1,000 next month. We don't pray for that. But again, that is a reality. And now is the time for business owners that want to be around in 6 months and 1 year to begin to take their fate in their hands.
Time to plan ahead.
Absolutely.
I believe. All right, so earlier this month, federal lawmakers voted, in support of the amendment of the to allow states actually, generate and transmit electricity. How does this affect, the renewable energy sector?
A step in the right direction, I would say, right? Because, again, if we look at, a lot of other developed worlds, similar schemes are available. Interestingly, I was in Singapore in November, and I was speaking with a senator from Southern Australia. And indeed, they didn't wait for the federal. All of what happened in Australia was more or less jump-started by the state. So indeed, this is one of the regulations that has limited our potential as a nation. So it's a step in the right direction. My advice would be that, anyone else, I know it's the Senate, the lawmakers that voted for it, I would say everyone else needs to key up and ensure that that happens. And at that point, let's allow innovation to, see what is happening in the fintech. Innovation is now happening, even though there are some regulations that didn't want it to happen, but it's happening anyway. So this is the time that at the federal level, government needs to more or less just raise their hand, because, nobody in government thought diesel will be 700. And we have industries that we need to ensure that they are self-sustaining. So let everyone just come together, let this happen, let state be able to generate their power. These things are already happening. Individual businesses, individual factories are generating their power, albeit with diesel generators. Now it might not be sustaining for them. Some of them are using gas, especially the ones that are along the gas pipeline corridor. So federal governments just hands off this, let states control their destiny, and then, that might actually be the beginning of the great things that we expect. This nation has a lot of potential, but we're just using political, regulatory issues
should this be, signed into law? And what risks do you think investors will face with this?
As a matter of fact, investors will jump on it more. Why? Because it's more or less democratized energy. You don't have to go through all the bottleneck of going to the federal. You can deal with each state. And then, I mean, because again, if you look at the gap, the energy disparity from what we're generating to what we're consuming, it's huge. So investors will even prefer that more because you don't have to. We're talking about more than 200 million people. You don't have to be in every state, So investors can decide to be in Southwest, right? And I mean, you do Ogun State, you do Oyo State, Osun State, or you could prefer to stay in the North, and do your thing in the North. So that will even, catalyze, because, I have 3 foreign investors. The government of Norway, they are an investor. The European Union did equity investment in us. And some other world billionaires. So I hear what investors talk about. And some of their concerns is regulatory. So if we democratize it and allow states to do their own thing, you will see a lot more investment coming in. And even the local banks, the local financial institutions, the local investors, will also, be able to plug into that.
Whet their appetite also.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'll take you back to solar now. There's been complaints about durability, and reliability.
Right.
What would you say to, that average consumer there thinking like this?
All right, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've not heard of such complaints before. And I think it's not unique to solar. It's more or less across a lot of things that we do as a country. But specifically with solar, as a business, we moved away from most of the problem had always been with the batteries. Even the ones that are not solar, that are inverter systems that people have been used to, complaints around maybe their storage system or battery systems are packed up within 1 year. But the technology has improved, even though it might not be cheap, but we have solutions. For instance, any of our energy customers know that whenever they get any solar solution from us, minimum of 5 years warranty. No story, no quibble. Anything is faulty, you get a replacement. And this system can last longer than 10 years. But it is not lead acid battery. It might not be cheap, and because we know that it's not cheap, that's why we've been able to bring to market innovative acquisition model. Customers can do either lease to own. For those that want to own it, but they cannot afford the capital from the get-go, you can spread your payment over 36 months. At that point, you see what you're paying on a monthly basis. It is cheaper than what you would spend, even when diesel was 300 naira. Now diesel is 625, right? And for businesses...
How durable, though?
So so durability is what I'm saying, that it's longer than 10 years. The solar panel comes with 12 years warranty to last more than 25 years.
Okay.
The lithium batteries will last more than 10 years. And so even if customers do lease to own over 36 months, you still have at least 7 years to use the system. And what we do tell people is when you do lead acid, because this is cheap today, you don't know what the replacement cost will be next year. We don't know what the currency will be. The currency devaluation, inflation can take that replacement cost even higher than what you spend today. Okay. Which is why it is important for people to plan for the long haul, for the future, and then buy a system that will give you rest of mind, and in the next 10 years, you won't have to change anything.
All right, no problem. That's Femi Adeyemo, founder, CEO, Energy. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Laddie. Thank you for having me.
We hope there's a de-escalation.
We hope so.
At some point. All right, so after the break, we'll look at what's happening in Nigeria's agricultural sector. That's the moment. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back now to our next conversation. Well, a lot is happening in the agricultural space with geopolitical tension between Russia and Ukraine impacting agricultural commodities. And right here in Nigeria, I also have the recent ban on foreigners buying produce directly from farmers in Nigeria, amongst other issues. I will have African farmer Morgaji join us on the program, former chairman, Agric Group, LCCI. Great to have you. Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, so before this ban, could you paint a picture, the procedures, in buying agricultural produce from farmers?
Okay, so 30, 40 years ago, you had government structures functional that you would get to the farmers through the agencies, quarantine, extension services. You had structures functional. But 30 years, 40 years back now, it's free for all. Everybody, penetrates the farm, which is primarily a function of government infrastructure not available. In every local government, before you move your farm produce to the other, there are certifications already gotten before, there are levies paid, but all those is out now. So really, nobody is looking after the farmers. The foreigners are the ones that are looking after the farmers.
By buying directly from them?
By buying directly from them, by giving them insecticides so that they can even have a crop, by giving them credit for fertilizers. Government is not doing that. Most of the private sector is not doing that. They can't afford it. The private sector can't afford it because of the cost of funds. So bottom line is, there's an organization that used to be called Sibagegi. They produce agrochemicals. Many of them, they're 50 years in the country supporting the value chain of the farmers. The farmers depend on them to have a crop to even sell at all. So when we hear that there's a ban now, who is going to fit that structure?
But the concern is the farmers are being shortchanged.
So, when I heard the ban, I laughed and almost cried. I laughed because I said, do these people know how the structure works in reality for 50 years? Now the farmers, so what the local players don't like, and some of them, is that the foreigners come, they change the money black market, so they have more money. The local people here don't have that kind of money. The cost of funds, the bank funding them, it doesn't come on time. The foreigners come early in the season to mop up. So the local players are at a disadvantage. But using the farmers as, the bait to say we want to help the farmers, no. It pays the farmers for the people to buy directly from them. Why? Because the foreigners want to buy, and they buy at a higher price. So they increase the price, so it pays the farmer. But when the local buyer is the one buying, it doesn't pay the farmer.
So you're telling me there's no, some kind of shortchanging going on?
Yes, there's shortchanging going on.
Some get cheated.
Yes, but the farmers get the cash. And they get it because there's more competition coming into the farmers right now. But the local buyers, the local businesses who do export, they are the ones that have a challenge. So it's not primarily the foreign buyers. It's for government to support, to make sure that they are financially buoyant and stable to be able to compete. So when you're buying dollar at a price and somebody is bringing dollar and selling to in here at a black market, so already that person is, has one advantage. So it's always alarming when we always have this ban. Ban has not worked. I don't know when we're going to open our hearts and our eyes to banning. The farmer pays for the bans. What is going to happen? So I heard the minister say, during the video on Twitter, saying that they will put in the structure and mechanism. They will put it in. Why don't you put it in before you ban it? You see, there's Russia-Ukraine war currently going on, affecting food prices. And so what I expect the minister to be talking about, because I'm grounded in foreign policy, is for the minister to go online and begin to say, Nigeria open to collaborate with Europe to meet its food needs. That's what the Minister of Trade and Investment should be talking about. Sending a positive message. Have a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Minister and just give the Europeans the confidence, because they're already afraid of Russia.
But can we plug this gap, really?
See, so take for instance, Ukraine supplies over 50% of world sunflower oil. Sunflower, Gombe is a leading sunflower producer. Sunflower grows in every state of the nation. Now, the Minister of Trade and Investment, the Minister of Agriculture, Foreign Minister, need to have a meeting and begin to push this out. We need to have a policy, change into that direction. India buys 100% of their sunflower oil from Ukraine. So India is already a trading partner with Nigeria. These are things that they ought to talk about. The farmers now, vegetable oil, the prices will go higher because there's no sunflower oil moving from Ukraine to India. You know, corn, there are a lot of things that we need to be talking about. The farmers will pay for this thing dearly now because now they need to get licenses. It's not clear how you get the license. The power sector that they got licenses, we've not gotten power. So bottom line is that now the Europeans will say we want to work with licensed people. And how are we sure that the people who ought to get the license, the current players, are the ones that will get the licenses? So again, the farmers will pay for this.
Because now we've been getting, you know, mixed reactions, you know, about this. Some say this will actually constrain, you know, the market. And yesterday I saw that All Farmers Association of Nigeria said they're actually lauding, you know, this ban.
So All Farmers Association may not like what I'm about to say. Almost all the executives, and I have friends there, almost all the executives are not full-time farmers. The chairman, National All Farmers Association, Goodman, is an architect. He has something else to fall back on. Almost all the executives have something to fall back on. I'm a full-time farmer. I only make money from talking outside the core farming. So when the people whose economy will be affected directly become the people at the helm of this affair, then, you know, they will ensure policies. They would go after negotiating with government or lobbying government. But when you have people whose inflow, direct inflow, bread and butter is not directly from farming, it won't work. So they can talk. But does it pinch them? No, no. I have rented one of a state chairman of an association. When this administration funding, I have rented the farm. In the year the government was making provision, seeds, chemical, the chairman did not farm. I rented the farm in a particular northern state. So bottom line is that until we have the real players, they will always be using the farmers to give us some wicked policies. The corn policy ban was reversed in 45 days because the people who advise the presidency or the president does not have that grassroots. Now, over 50%, I stand to be corrected. Over 50% of the poultry in this country is finished. A core friend of mine who's been doing poultry for years ended up selling minerals, drinks, soft drinks, last year. Wow. You know, so all these policies that just come, this policy that, you know, was just put in place now, when it comes, it's not holistic. When it comes to like cashew, cocoa, cola, cola nut, yes. But when it comes to ugu, the fresh vegetables, that is from farm, you take it directly. Do we have the plant quarantine? Is government funding plant quarantine? Who ideally should work with the farmer from seed to harvest? So that policy does not pay attention to those people. They only pay attention to the other one. And the fresh market is on the increase now. So bottom line is we're sending a wrong message. It's killing the farmers. The more you try to scale in this country, it's as if, you know, the Asurok, you know, demons just calm down. Yeah. It's
quite interesting.
The small scale, the cottage industry will feel this. Poultry, the crop farmers this year will be in for it because now you send a threat that don't give the credit to the farmers to buy seed fertilizers. Nobody is giving the tree crops, the permanent crops, the cash crops. Nobody is giving them facility. There's no anchor borrower, as laudable as it. There's no anchor borrower for cashew. There's no anchor borrower for cocoa. So it is these guys that have been funding it for years. You know, it's frustrating for many of us.
I can imagine. All right, let's look at, you know, wheat. Now, obviously, we're seeing supply disruptions there right now. And now we've seen a couple of countries actually banning exports, like we've seen Egypt actually. And now the word food protectionism is being thrown around now. So what do you think about this?
First and foremost, did we learn from COVID? That's the first thing. Because all countries decided not to export because they weren't sure of how long the pandemic will keep everybody indoors. What have we done? The wheat that we're talking about now, Russia produces 20% globally. Ukraine does 10%. 70% of Russia's wheat comes to Africa and East Asia. Nigeria tops in the purchase, about $1.2 billion. Now, the challenge now is, last year, CBN began the wheat pilot program, imported seeds, and they made it online that they imported the seeds. This year, federal government released wheat seed. There was no collaboration. If not, we ought to be scaling the locally bred wheat by our researchers. The imported wheat, you're not sure if it will fully adapt or be adopted to our soil. So bottom line is that it's not looking good. Next 90 days, in fact, 30 to 45 days, wheat, pasta, noodles, name it, and even corn. Currently, as you and I are having a conversation, last year, Russia stopped exporting urea to US, which is used for nitrogen fertilizers. China also joined. So already 2022, 2023, corn is going to be expensive. Corn is currently sold at 180 to 200 to 220. It used to be 40,000 naira at this time. So 2022 now, we're not going to have, US is not going to produce enough corn. The farmers are even crying in the US. Russia is not exporting. China buys 29% of their corn from Ukraine. So what does that, as we talk now, chicken is going to go high, eggs is going to go high, corn syrup. Most of our medicines they use corn starch. So as we speak now, we need to be hearing a lot of, the ministers talking big. Even if we don't have the structure, talk big. Europe wants to invest now. But unfortunately, it is the low things that we're talking about. So wheat, there's going to be a huge challenge. However, you see, there's always opportunity in adversity.
Exactly.
So we need to look into our wheat. It's never too late to change direction. We need to look into our wheat right now. We need to re-embrace our cassava. Cassava prices this year ought to be very low. The price went between 100% to 200% last year. So the people rushed into it. So they're supposed to be gluts this year. But with this Russia war, the cassava starch, flour would embrace it. So government needs to look into engaging the processors so that the inclusion that was done during President Obasanjo's administration, we need to revisit it and make it permanent. But not to impose on the manufacturers, but to have a conversation. Now they will talk to you. They will come to the table. But we need to be looking at the future,
right?
Not going back.
Because there's also talk about looming, food crisis globally right now. All right, Mr. African Farmer, thank you so much. Former Chairman, Agric Group, LCCI. Thank you for coming on the program, and I hope you don't go hungry.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
All right. Well, let's take a look at what's happening with the market. We have right there on that side right now telling
for a
us.
Change.
Yeah, for a change. What's going on with the market?
Hi, Laddie. Good morning,
Morning.
and thank you for having me right here. Well, let's look what's happening in the market or how the market traded yesterday. I know one of your favorites will be the equities, but just before we get there, let's go to the FX markets. Last week, a total of $697.54 million was traded in the FX market. That's the week there. And then FX sports had more. It was a 32.84 week-on-week change. Forward was less. And on a total, we had 20.06. Looking at the I&E window there, we see that total value was up 32.84%, a total of 607. And then we have joining us to tell us what's happened in the FX market last week and a projection of what we should expect this week. We have Odinaka. He is the fixed income dealer at Access Bank. Odinaka Onwokonkwo. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about liquidity and what's going on in the FX space. A lot of talks about how quiet it's been recently. How would you summarize last week's activities?
Last week, what we saw in the market was a bit of positive. The positive in the market was sustained. We saw NAFEX, however, we saw NAFEX gaining just 5 kobo to close at 415.71. And the INA also gained 17 kobo to 416.50. But we've seen CBN continue the intervention on the SME and invisible space, which is kind of tapering the rate increase in the market.
So this intervention by the CBN has been applauded, but there is the real sector feeling the impacts of, you know, this so much CBN. We have LCCI talking about access, LCCI, CPPE, talking about access to foreign exchange. And we also had last week, I think it lasts till the end of the month, that some business operators are allowed to pay what they're owing in foreign exchange, to pay in Naira. So are we going to say that things are getting better, or is there a way to push things to a better space?
What I would say is that the CBN has continued to show strong efforts in what is happening in terms of the FX commitment to the country. In the SME space, when you look at what is happening in the SME space, if not for these interventions, what we would see is rates hiking up significantly in the INE window. The INE window, which was designed by the CBN, it was strictly for investors and exporters window, and we've seen that continue to fulfill its cost despite the thin liquidity in that market. So I think in terms of the auctions and interventions by the CBN on the SME and the visible space, I think it's making a good headway in terms of tapering the FX demand or cushioning what we're seeing in the market.
MPC is next week. Where do you see the MPC going? Do you see them making any difference?
In the MPC, I'm sure the committee will be looking at a lot of parameters. Looking at the inflation, currently it's 15.6. One would expect it to kind of increase slightly, considering what we've seen in the crude oil prices, which could actually have an effect in the economy. So one should actually expect it to increase slightly for the month of February. So for MPC, we should be looking at largely probably retaining all parameters constant, MPR at 11.5 levels. I think that's what they will actually do next week.
Okay, all right. Well, Odinaka Nwokonkwo, thank you so much. Fixed income dealer with Access Bank PLC. Thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.
Well, Ladi, I think I'm almost out of time now, but it would have been nice to see what happened in the market.
Yeah, we're checking out. We'll see how the market opens the first week, but you know, Friday wasn't so bad for the equities market.
For the equities, yeah, for the equities wasn't so bad. But I mean, the fixed income was, you know, kind of quiet. Yeah. But I mean, let's look forward to MPC, like Odinaka said.
Exactly.
Maybe the change in the interest rate is going to bring a boost to the market. We'll look forward
investors
to that.
react. All right, Nia, thank you so much. All right, after the break, I would take a trip to London. That's at the moment. Just stay with us. All right, now let's head on to the UK. We have Juliana standing by there. Great to have you, Juliana. Good morning. Well, see, more bids are coming for the for Chelsea Football Club. Latest from Nick Candy. How's the bid looking?
Yeah, good morning, Laddie. Well, there, I believe, are 10 credible bids on the table at the moment, but I think the one that most people are talking about in this country is from Nick Candy. He's a 49-year-old British billionaire who is actually a fan of Chelsea, and I believe he's put in an offer of over £2 billion. This has become a really popular bid with fans because he says that he wants to form a consortium and he wants to offer a seat around the table so that fans can discuss the future of the club. And we know that the future of the club remains deeply uncertain even after their home win yesterday against Newcastle United following the sanctions against their owner Roman Abramovich. Now, previously, we thought that perhaps they would have to go into administration and that because of all the detailed surroundings of the sanctions, that Abramovich would not be able to sell the club, but alas, I think Chelsea is seen as a UK staple, something that the British government don't want to see fall into administration, so they have allowed a bid to take place. There is an American merchant bank that will oversee the sale process to ensure that Abramovich will not will not benefit from the sales process. So we just have to wait and see. There were also reports today that perhaps in the coming days it may even be really difficult for players to get paid. And we know that footballers get paid a lot of money, I think £500,000 a week for some of the top players. So there are concerns. I think Nick Candy and the other 9 offers have until Friday to make a confirmed bid, and yes, we'll just have to wait and see. But because Nick Candy is a Chelsea fan himself, I think the fans are really behind him being the successful new owner.
Quite interesting. Well, we'll be watching how that plays out. Well, it's a new week. What are the expectations in the UK?
Yes, it's a new week. I think, of course, even though we haven't mentioned it, dominating the headlines this week is going to be the crisis in Ukraine, that war. Some devastating reports this morning about a pregnant mother and her child being killed in that Mariupol bombing last week. There is a new scheme being launched in the UK in the coming days, which is British citizens opening up their doors for Ukrainian refugees, so they will be allowing Brits to put people up in their own homes at a thank you cost of £300 a month. That's what people will be receiving now. Of course, there's been so much criticism facing the Home Secretary, Priti Patel. In fact, lots of calls asking for her to resign because of this really slow nature. I believe at the moment about 3,000 refugees have been given a home here. If you compare it to somewhere like Germany, they've got about 100,000, and we know Poland are taking the lion's share of refugees, the 2.5 million that have fled already. So that is going to be dominating. We're going to get more from Michael Gove in the House of Commons later today. And then we've got UK unemployment figures due in tomorrow. Unemployment currently at about 4.1%. It's probably going to stay that way. And then all eyes are going to be on Threadneedle Street and the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee gathering on Thursday, where they are going to be discussing interest rates and quantitative easing, and of course the I word, inflation. They said at their last meeting it could rise to about 7.5% next month, but of course, because of what's happening in Europe, it is going to spiral much further than that. Are they going to, for the 3rd consecutive month, raise interest rates? That is the big question. We would have said no because of what is happening in Europe, but then we got that pretty robust economic data on Friday showing that the UK economy rebounded much better than expected in January. So yes, it's a have to wait and see a week, Laddie, a kind of week we're usually used to now on the business team.
Exactly, we're actually used to that, and it's the central bankers against inflation at this point. All right, Juliana, thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get more market reports there. We'll see the Bitcoin now remained in a bearish zone below the 40,000 support. Let's look at the Fear Greed Index now. It's 23 points. We see sentiment in the market, that's the crypto space right now, is actually extreme fear at 23 points. At Friday, it was fear about 24 to 25 points, but now we see traders are getting more skeptical at this point in the market. Let's look at the market cap there. We see it's a $1.72 trillion. It's down about 1.42%, with volume traded in the total crypto space, it's up about 26.60%. Bitcoin dominance sitting at 42.44%. It's not really moved from there for a while now. Let's look at the price of Bitcoin this morning. It's $38,669 per coin. It's down about 1.24%. Volume traded in Bitcoin, $20.59 billion. We see Bitcoin there struggling to stay above that 39,000 range, and starting maybe a fresh move over the 40,000 mark. So it's looking quite bearish below $39,000 price for Bitcoin. We have support levels to watch there, 38,500. That's the next support watching on the charts. Now we see Ethereum It's $2,577, down about 0.29%. Volume traded $10.38 billion traded in Ethereum this morning. All right, let's bring in Olumide Additional now, financial market analyst. Hello, Olumide. Great to have you. Happy Monday.
Yeah, it's an eventful week.
Quite eventful week. We're expecting. Well, with all that's going on, no inflation, geopolitical tension, we've seen Bitcoin lose about 20% this year, but Elon Musk is saying he still owns Bitcoin and he's not selling.
Yeah, so that really gave Bitcoin and many altcoins some support. You know fully well that, just like you rightly mentioned, inflationary pressure in global market has made global central banks to try to tighten liquidity. And like we're saying, this week seems to be the all-important week for this quarter because the U.S. Fed will likely increase interest rates by 250 basis points. What that means is that will really put some pressure on risky assets that include the crypto market. But having said that, we need to give credence to Bitcoin bull because if you look at the outlook for this year already, the outlook for this year for the crypto market was bearish because of we already expected market liquidity tightening at great levels. But knowing fully well that institutional adoption and the likes of Elon Musk bringing credence to the credibility of the crypto market, and also until recently, Joe Biden's crypto executive order meant that the crypto market is not going anywhere. So we are seeing Bitcoin this year oscillating between $3,000 support level and 45. So it's left to be seen that if the geopolitical uncertainty around Ukraine, Russia will further dampen market. But one thing is certain, that the crypto market is going nowhere.
Right. And, we quite an eventful week. We see the Fed meeting on Wednesday, and we also have a EU Bitcoin mining ban vote this week.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's going to be a volatile week. What do you see investors doing?
Yeah, so just like you rightly mentioned, the EU Bitcoin mining vote, any bearish result from that will definitely weigh on the market. You can't undermine the importance the European Union has on global financial market. So we are keenly watching that, although bookmakers are saying the vote is too close. But I think, to be fair, I don't see the bulls having their way this week because they're expecting interest rate hike this week. They are also expecting certain geopolitical dramatic play to continue in the market. So I think it's safe to say Bitcoin will oscillate between the 30 to 35,000 support level to 40,000 resistance level.
Right, Olumide. Not a very easy time for investors in any market right now, exactly. Olumide. I'm sure you must agree with me. All right, Olumide, thank you so much. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at the top odds by market cap. We see it's mostly red on that counter. Just Cardano at 80 cents, up by 1.39% this morning. It's all red except for Cardano. Solana there, $80, way below the $100 mark at this point. It's down about 2.05%. XRP, 76 cents, down about 3.42%. And let's look at the top 5 gainers this morning. It's quite lean. Don't see any double-digit gains. It's Rune topping that count is up about 7.10%. It's $6.93 per coin. We see Luna there, $90.73, up about 3.57%. And Zcash, that one's been on that top gainer counter for a while now. It's having some kind of rally with privacy coins. XDC, 5 cents, up about 2.56%. We see the OKX token there, OKB, $18. Up about 2.18%. And we see, let's look at the top 5 losers. It's not double-digit losses. Surprisingly, Gala there, it's down 8.65%. It's one of the play-to-earn platforms. Phantom, DAG blockchain there, $1.11. It's down about 7.39%. We see Dash there, one of the oldies in the crypto market, and Waves also down, each down about 6% this morning. So the crypto market still looking quite bearish at this point. It remains to be seen how the week plays out for Bitcoin. All right, so that's a wrap on the market and the crypto space now, and a wrap on the program. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 on Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye.